Hi, I am Dr. K. Sai Prasad Reddy. Welcome to the subject software testing. And today's session we are going to discuss about the goals of software test engineer. What are the different goals of software test engineer in the project? So, software testing. Software testing is nothing but the combination of static testing and the dynamic testing. That is, both the static testing and dynamic testing put together is called software testing. That means, as a software test engineer, you have to perform both static testing as well as dynamic testing. This is your responsibility. And now, we will discuss about the static testing and dynamic testing. In this, both the static testing and dynamic testing, the software testing team, first they will complete static testing. After successful completion of static testing only, they will go for dynamic testing. And what do you mean by the static testing? Static testing is nothing but manual examination. So, software testing team will do manual examination. On what? They will do manual examination on the project documentation. If at all the software developers are there, then they will do this manual examination on code as well as on the project documentation. As a software test engineer, you have to do the static testing only on the project documentation. So, static testing is nothing but which relies on manual examination of the code or other project documentation. The static testing does not require software code to be executed. So static testing is nothing but the process of manual examination of the code as well as the project documentation. The static testing will never requires the execution. So example for the static testing are reviews, walkthroughs and inspections. These three are the static testing techniques. Software test engineers has to perform reviews, walkthroughs and inspections. The software developers are also will perform reviews, walkthroughs and inspections. So we will have a separate session on reviews, walkthroughs and inspections. Now this is static testing. During the static testing, there will not be any execution of the code or the application. Simply they will do testing manually by examination. Right? This is called static testing. And the dynamic testing. So after successful completion of static testing, then the team will move to dynamic testing. During this dynamic testing, the code will be executed. During this dynamic testing, the project application will be executed. So how this code or the project will be executed? By giving the inputs and by observing the output. So the software is executed by giving the inputs. After giving the inputs, they will perform operation and they will get the output. That output is called actual output. This actual output is compared with the expected output. So the expected output, from where we will get this expected output? The expected output will be derived from the test basis. Here the expected output will be derived from the business requirements specification document, which contains the client requirements or the business requirements of the client. So this is called the dynamic testing. So during dynamic testing, the code or the application will be executed by giving the inputs. Example for better understanding. Now during the dynamic testing, I wanted to test the login functionality. If I wanted to test the login functionality, then I have to give the inputs. So obviously I have to give the user ID and password. After entering the user ID and password, I have to test whether the login functionality is working properly or not. Now after entering the valid user ID and valid password, click on the login button or the sign in button and then we have to observe what will happen. So according to the client requirements, say the home page should be displayed. So whether this home page is displaying or not. So this home page which is displayed is the actual output, right? This actual output will be compared against to the expected output. This expected output will be derived from the test basis. Here the test basis is BRS document. This is called dynamic testing. So as a software test engineer, first you have to do the software static testing, and then you have to do for dynamic testing. And either it may be a static testing or it may be a dynamic testing. Both are the testing only. Testing itself is nothing but to find the defects. That means you have to find the defects during the static testing as well as in the dynamic testing. Either it may be a static testing or it may be a dynamic testing. Both are the testing only. Testing means the testing itself is to find the defects. That means as a software test engineer, you have to find the defects during the static testing, and also you have to find the defects during the dynamic testing. Now, what are the different goals of the software test engineer? So the main goal, the main aim of the software test engineer is to find the defects. When you have to find the defects, you have to find the defects at the earlier only. You have to find the defects at the earlier stages only. Then after finding the defects, what you are supposed to do? After finding the defects, you have to report the defects. After reporting the defects, you have to track the defects and you have to close the defect. So I will explain elaborately. So for example, say static testing. Now you are doing static testing. During the static testing, you are doing reviews on the BRS document. Now you are doing the review on the BRS document for what purpose? To find the defects in the BRS document. So who is the author of the BRS document? Business analyst. Now during the review process, for example, say one software test engineer has found the defect. So immediately after finding the defects, this defect should be reported to the author of the document, that is a business analyst. After reporting the defect to the business analyst, he has to track the defect. That means the software test engineer has to track the defect to find the status of the defect. And then the software test engineer, he himself is responsible to close the defect. So this is one of the main goals of the software test engineer. So as a software test engineer, you have to find the defects. When you are supposed to find the defects, you have to find the defects at the earlier stage of the project itself. After finding the defects, then what you are supposed to do? Immediately you have to report the defects. After reporting, you have to track the defect. How the defect, what is the status of the defect? And then finally, the software test engineer is responsible to close the defect. Because he only reported the defect and he only supposed to close the defect. So these are the goals of the software test engineer. These are the primary goals of the software test engineer. There may be so many other goals, there may be so many other activities of the software test engineer. But one of the primary goals of software test engineer is to find the defects at the early stage, and then you have to report the defects and track the defects and close the defects. Right? Yes. So please subscribe my channel and share my sessions to your friends, students groups who are looking for the job in the IT industry, and please like my videos. Thank you very much.